This is Build Without Chaos. I'm Colleen Goepfert. One clear idea every episode for operators, founders, and marketers who build with intent. Hello, welcome back. Last episode, we went deep on what it feels like when the world is on fire. The urgency, the noise, the weight of it all. This week, I want to stay with that thread but bring it closer to the ground. Because once you've named the fire, the next question is, how do you actually live and work inside of it without losing your mind? My guest today is my friend Angela Dulavoy. She's gone from small town Texas to New York City agency chaos into corporate polish at Salesforce in San Francisco and back to Texas where she's built her career inside high growth tech companies. Through all of it, she's chosen to stay on the front lines, the place where leadership decisions land, where chaos gets carried out, and where sanity has to be self-made. Angie has the stories and all the tea. She has the humor, and she's exactly the kind of voice a CEO and operator should be listening to if they want to understand what their teams really feel and how their impact resonates. Angie, welcome.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm excited to be here today, and I look forward to our chat.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So your story is actually remarkable, and I'm constantly impressed with it. You left small town Texas, which is pretty hard to do, and you moved to New York City and joined agency life, which is very well known to be very chaotic. What was that like for you?
It was a great experience. I'm originally from Lufkin, Texas, small town, graduated from Texas State. And at the time when I was getting my degree, both of my parents saw the movement of things pushing forward in the tech space. So they definitely persuaded me to go into graphic design. That was the closest thing that I had interest in currently that the Texas State program.
Yeah.
Graduated in graphic design. At that time, 2004, there wasn't a lot in the job market, but what I did know is there was high growth and a lot of jobs and work in New York City. That's what led me to move from Texas to New York City. Went there, moved to New York, and got my first job working at an agency. This was also simultaneously things were changing from print to digital, right?
Yeah.
So that was definitely a learning curve. I learned a lot. I tell a lot of friends and people I felt like it was grad school. It wasn't grad school, but it was like you hunker down in the trenches and you're learning on the fly. Simultaneously,
Yeah.
while advertising is changing and moving towards the tech and digital space. So I'm very
Yeah.
for this time in my career.
And so how was that in New York City? Did you have roommates? Did you move in with someone? Were you sharing bunk beds? Was it your typical New York City life, like right out of college?
Absolutely. I had a 3-bedroom apartment in the Lower East Side. It was a 1-bedroom apartment that was transitioned to a 3-bedroom. We quickly figured that out
Oh, yeah.
after we moved in. So it
I know those. I know those. And they market them like, "Oh, beautiful 3 bedroom." And then you're like, "Wait a minute, is that a fake wall?" Yeah.
and it was a fake wall, but we lived and learned, right? Every day, me and my roommates. And my job was in Midtown, so I would take the train and walk halfway and train to Midtown to the agency life daily. But it was wonderful. You're learning every day, specifically coming from a small town where we drove everywhere. And now you're in a walking city, also with city transportation. So it was all new and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Stressful, but also very grateful for it.
Yeah, I bet. So agency life in New York City, is it what they make like in the movies, like Mad Men? Is it late hours? Is it strong demands? Like it was that kind of the life? And if so, do you have a story you can tell of something that was just you shake your head at now? Like, how did I even put up with that?
Absolutely, yeah. A few examples, but one that I could highlight, and similar to Mad Men, we did work late hours, and it was more like
Yeah.
the agency culture expected. And also when you're a recent grad, this is your first job, you're thinking, you're yes man. Yes
Yeah.
man. You're always gonna say yes, you know? everything on the back burner. We didn't talk about things back then about mental health and rest. It was like, get the project done, execute, on to the next. So you're constantly moving and hustling, also in a city that's constantly moving and hustling. So there was a project we were working on where it was a site redesign for I would say a top tier car company. And they'd never had they'd had a global redesign, but not an AMER focused redesign. So we were the AMER agency of record and we were designing their website. And I remember there was a moment where we had to launch by a specific date because there was simultaneously a campaign targeted to that site launch and you couldn't miss it, right? So
Yeah.
there's the team of us, there's the producers, the designers, the creative directors, the engineers. We're building a homegrown CMS system specifically for this AMER site redesign. And we have to get it launched by X date. Let's say we're 3 days from that launch. And we technically probably need about 5 or 6 more days. So we're just not going to sleep. We're just going to get it done. So our team stayed up for 36 hours, I would say 24 to 36 hours to get this site launched on time. And I remember sitting in the agency in Midtown thinking, oh my goodness, what are we doing? Not only did we get it launched on time, but in retrospect, a couple years later, looking back, I was like, how and why did we do that? So
Yeah.
you kind of take away a lot of learnings and trials and different things you would do differently, specifically doing a site redesign such large. So it was a great experience. Don't think I would recommend it for anyone to stay up for 36 hours to get something
No.
on time, but you learn so much with a great team of people.
Oh my gosh, I just can't imagine. Like, I'm someone who needs my sleep. So, staying up for 36 hours. And then you think about it, what really were you doing? Launching a website. Like, you weren't curing cancer.
No,
You weren't doing surgery that was going to save somebody's life. You were launching a website. It's crazy how those demands come down from clients or leadership, and you're just expected to execute.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So then you went from agency life and moved to San Francisco for a job in corporate America
Yeah.
at Salesforce.
Yeah.
So that must have been a huge change because that is like go, go, go agency life, New York City to San Francisco to polished Salesforce. Were there any like key differences there that you noticed right off the bat?
There were a lot of key differences to where it was more organized as an organization as a whole, but the
Yeah.
team that I had joined was part of an acquisition. So, in some sense, I felt as if I could compare it to my agency days and bring back that knowledge because, in some sense, we were growing a team within a larger organization. So, we were like a startup within the company and trying to find how do we fit into this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we were coming into a streamlined machine, but at times there were a lot of changes with the processes and org team overall, changes in leadership to where it was kind of chaotic, right? And trying to figure out how do you use your previous experiences from the agency life, flash forward to now you're at this big org. What can I do to bring myself to the forefront to be like, aha, I've had this experience. How do I handle these certain situations now?
So what I'm hearing is the chaos never really stops, Angela.
It does.
Like it can be chaotic in agency world in New York City and then in arguably a less chaotic city like San Francisco at a more polished corporate company, you're still going to see levels of chaos. And how do you deal with it?
So,
That's, I mean, in a way, it makes me feel better. Like it's all around us at all times, right?
absolutely, yeah. And I even go back to your previous podcast. I think it was two before this, Colleen, where your guest was talking about the chaos is always there, right? It's
Yeah.
how do you handle it? And
Yep.
I felt like going to Salesforce and having that agency experience. Yes, the agency experience was a lot, but I felt like I built a muscle at handling the chaos better. It's how do you
Mm.
within that situation. The end result, we're not, like you were saying, saving lives here, but simultaneously, we're trying to execute for our customers, right? And be the best that we can be. And I think there's moments of times where you have clarity within the chaos and you know it's going to be okay. But it's
Yeah.
also like having that key communication within your team and being a leader within your team, but also trusting your leadership as well, that they're a leading voice for your organization.
Mm. Is there a moment where you saw clarity in the chaos? Where you were just in it and you're like, you know what? If we do that, that's the path out.
Yeah. I would say for one example would be I had 5 different managers within 5 years, right? And we know how that is. And I know a lot of
Yeah.
it is because they're switching around different organization responsibilities and they're trying to figure it out. And I remember that, say, my 5th year when I was there was an aha moment where I finally felt the calm within the storm. And I trusted my leadership for making the choices they'd made. At first, I was skeptical because there was a lot of things we were doing that was reactive and we were not proactive.
Hmm.
And they knew by the 5th year we had it in place. We were now part of the strong, well-oiled machine, right? We weren't so reactive. We were doing now things more proactive. So finally, when I had that 5th manager, there were a lot of times where we would communicate internally and they knew that we were feeling the pain of it. And we feel it internally because we may not be executive leaders, we may not be senior leadership. We're the ones that are talking and speaking directly with our customers, but also trying to remain calm when there's all these changes that are happening internally. And I think it was that 5th year I had that aha moment where I knew it was going to be okay, and we had finally figured it out, and not only did our internal teams entrust us, but also our executive leadership.
So you weathered the
Yeah,
storm, so to speak,
more
and it worked
and
out.
it worked out. And I knew it was gonna be
Yeah.
okay, and it was.
And I think that's how it is, right? Like, I just put up a post on LinkedIn because I wanted to gather some thoughts. I had a friend that reached out and she said to me, the chaos is always going to happen in tech because people are disrupting and they're breaking things. And so, how do we coexist where we scale and also know the chaos is coming? So, I think that's a great example of, you just have to weather the storm and kind of stick through it and see that you're a part of a bigger engine in the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's continue your journey. So then you left Salesforce and you went into kind of high growth, mid tier sized tech companies, which is again very different, very interesting. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about your experience there. What's a story that captures what it was like being in the middle of growth at some of these tech companies that you were at?
Yeah, absolutely. Being a customer success manager at mid-growth companies versus working at, say, Salesforce, a large organization. By the 5th year, like I said, we had everything streamlined, we were in a very solid place, we trusted our leadership. When I moved into the mid-tier company, mid-size growth companies, I noticed a lot of those things that we had worked on for the past 5 years at Salesforce, maybe these companies didn't quite have in place. But based off of my experience, I knew to raise my hand to be like, "Hey, have we thought about X, Y, and Z? Have we proposed X, Y, or Z?" And one example would be like a lot of companies have a strong customer success org, but they may not have a strong, let's say, professional services. And there's a gap in
Mm,
that knowledge sometimes that I've noticed, right? Because within CS, we're working so closely with our customers, there's a lot of times where we are, again, going back to the point where we're reactive. We're always the one having the answers, but then there's moments where we do need to lean in for execution with other team members, such as professional services. So it was a moment to where I was like, okay, we may not have certain parts of the org in place, but based off of my experience of going through those moments with Salesforce, I had the knowledge and the confidence to raise my hand and speak with leadership to provide examples of execution and how we could perform X, Y, and Z.
So you essentially became the clarity within the
Yes,
chaos.
that, that,
Yeah,
based off of having all of those chaotic, I don't want to say chaotic, but moments of chaos, right? You
right.
start having a clear vision and understanding this is what's going to happen and this is how we can get in front of it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those teams in place working at a mid-growth company and you know that they're coming on the forefront within the company org, you know how to help facilitate and execute those, right? And having a voice behind it because you've experienced it.
Let's talk about leadership because you mentioned trusting leadership and being able to listen to the guidance that they provide and how it has helped you weather the storm. Is there a moment where you can remember a leader maybe mentioning something or doing something that you found on the front lines was just really impactful?
Yeah. I have a great example to provide of specifically working with leadership the past 2 years. I was part of an org, customer success org, where maybe we weren't, um, the strongest mindset. I think there's times when you work within a company, when there's a lot of change, you may feel at times sluggish. I hate to use the
Yeah,
word beat down, but maybe not so motivated, right? And we
sure.
had a new leader, a new vice president come in to the org. And I remember the first time hearing them speak in an all hands to our team, they had noted that moving forward, we're going to be working with honor and integrity. And I remember that hitting me in the heart, thinking, oh my gosh, not only have we been needing this, we want this. It was something now that I use weekly with my teams and with my customers. Sometimes I sit back and think from having that moment with the vice president, the new hire, speaking to the team, saying, we work as a team. This is not an I issue, it's a we issue. We're always solving it together, right? We're going to work with honor integrity. I now use that as a tool weekly. I sit here and think at times, am I working with honor and am I working with integrity, not only with my customers, but with my team and also answering to my leadership within the company? So not only was he sharing that with us as a moment to reinforce motivation and letting us know that he was here, I heard him, but I also learned from him. And now I take that as a tool that I use daily.
I think it's important for leadership to be communicating that sort of message. I think people want to lead with it and they think, yeah, of course. Maybe they take it for granted. Of course, I'm going to lead with integrity and honor. But then I think it's another step to actually go and say that on an all hands to a team, which honestly, I think this is the first time I've really heard of someone mentioning that. So I think it really shows growth
Yeah.
within the company, within the leadership. And also, it works as a guide out of a chaotic environment that, as you mentioned, maybe morale wasn't the highest.
Yeah. And going back to it, like, again, learning how to work within reactive, you know, moments of stress within your team and sitting and
Hmm.
having that moment of breath and learning, like, it's going to be okay. We've done this. I've done this. What happens at the end? We always succeed. We figure it out because we work with honor integrity within our teams and with our customers. So,
And we always have those funny stories from the beginning of our career that we could be like, at least it's not that. At least I'm not up for
at least
36 hours trying to launch a website,
At least I'm
you
not up for
know?
36 hours, Colleen. You know what? We figure it out, and we've learned so much since then, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all have those crazy stories. I mean, I remember my first job at a college was at Lehman Brothers, RIP to Lehman Brothers. But I had to be at the office, my butt in the seat at 7 a.m. I don't know how I did that.
I can't,
I was taking the bus at 6:15 in the morning to get to work. And now I look back, I'm like, was that necessary? I don't know. Why couldn't I have started at like
I know.
normal working hours? But we live and we learn. Um, I want to continue on this path of leadership. Was there another moment that stuck out to you that was spot on or way off? Something you saw or something that you saw that was either good or not so great that you're like, that's not right, or we're going down the wrong path?
I can say one for a couple of I'll use an example, and I'll say a good example, maybe something good. And one of them is we just hired a new manager for our CS team. And the team was a little nervous because we were not part of, say, that hiring process. So we were hesitant of who this new hire is going to come in. Who's this new director? And I understand them by the team. We're all nervous, like, oh, are they gonna rock the boat? How is the temperature? Do they work well with the team? We have a lot of things in motion specifically for customer success and where we want to be, right? So I think at first we were all more or less as testing them. Is this a good fit? I can say fast forward 6 months, it was probably one of the best managers I'd ever had. And I was taken back. I was thoroughly surprised. Not only did he bring in change for the positive, but he taught us so much. And I was forever grateful for that leadership hire. Was I a little hesitant at first because, again, leadership hired this director without the team that he was managing having a say or meeting them or having them part of the hiring process. That was a little different for me. You felt a little bit shorted. Like, why were we not part of this? We should be the voice behind this hire because he's managing us daily.
Yeah.
So at that moment, we had to have trust in our vice president and leader that they were making the right choice. And in the end, they did. And I think the whole
Yeah.
team was pleasantly surprised, and we were grateful. We were like, "Thank you.
Yeah.
Next time, include us." But we were
Yeah.
grateful, and they taught us a lot. And that's a director that I still stay in touch with, constantly learning from, and keep the pulse with because it was someone that I built a connection with to where I really felt like they valued our team, helped us grow, taught us, and saw the vision for this CS team within the CS org moving forward.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It was great.
I mean, that's how leadership's supposed to be.
Yes,
And I think that's really the North Star.
absolutely.
So you've definitely seen leadership land in all kinds of ways. You've transferred through chaos at the thick of it. How do you keep your mind right? What are some boundaries you've now put into place so that you're not sleeping 36 hours? Or I'm sorry, you're not up for 36 hours. You are thinking about what's best for you.
Yeah, that's a great one too, Colleen. I would say one thing that I have definitely leaned into the past couple years is and as simple as this to say is working out. I have a boundary with my time is precious when it comes to exercise. And I think I've shared with you and friends before. I exercise to do better at work. Because like you're getting the constant pings, the Slack messages, the emails. Specifically working as a CSM, you're the point of contact for the customer. And you're also getting direction from leadership. So there's a lot of different motions and movements going on simultaneously at the same time. That can be chaotic. So one thing that I felt has worked specifically for me is if I work out, my mind is calmer and I'm more clear when I come to the desk, right? When I'm sitting at the desk. It's not even working out. Sure, it's great. It makes your body feel good. You feel good, you're in shape. A lot of people use it for managing weight simultaneously. I actually use it for my brain. And that is
Mhm.
one boundary that I will stick to because it's made me a better performer. Because then I can come to the desk and I think, okay, Yes, I have 20 Slack channels going on right now. Yes, I have so many emails. There's a fire we're putting out. That's CSMs, we're putting out fires. But you come at a place with calmness and you know it's going to be okay because your mind
Yeah.
is clear and you can come at it with, okay, let's prioritize. We just completed this workout. We feel better. Our body's in a healthy state. Our mind is in a healthy state. We can execute. So that is something that's very important for me that I do have a boundary with. Like there are times where people need to have calls at 7 a.m., but it's not going to continue. We're not doing 36 hours without sleep. We're working out and
No.
then we're working. So
Yeah.
important for me. And that's something that I stick with.
Is there anything you do like midday? Let's say you're having a stressful morning, you need to step away for a second. Is there a momentarily thing you do that's relief or something to the effect? For me, it's really just changing my environment. If I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working from home, I'll go sit at my kitchen table. And that to me is a small reset I'll do to just get my mind back right into thinking about what I'm doing and how I can solve it.
Yeah, that's a great one too. I definitely take moments where I'll take a walk, get air. But one thing
Yeah.
I notice that I do too is, yes, this is still sitting at the desk, but sometimes I'll have a video call with a fellow employee that works with me, and we'll just chat, not even about work. I'll ping them and
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, let's talk. We haven't talked in a while. I feel like there's moments where you can connect, and yes, it's not always venting on Zoom calls with them, but sometimes it's just
Mhm.
chatting about life and it makes you feel better. And then after a 30-minute chat, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get back to my work now, but thank you so much. And sometimes I've noticed that even helps reset me.
Yeah. A work
A
bestie.
work bestie. Yep. But I have plenty of them, Colleen. Probably too many. Right?
That's good. You diversify the portfolio of work besties. I think that's
Yeah.
positive.
Right. You need them. They help you.
Yeah. We'll now move to wrapping up. It's been great to have you on. Is there any last funny story or human story like that you have to share from the front lines? Something, an office joke or anything that you've found to be just something worth laughing about? Because I think what's been great about our conversation, Angela, is that you take the high road through chaos and you've learned through it and moved forward with it. I don't know if you have any last final stories to share.
One last story I have to share that goes back to the 36 hours of no sleep with the website redesign circa 2007 is that
Yeah.
after launch, we toasted with a bottle of wine, but we were so sleep deprived, we couldn't find the bottle opener. We never got to open the wine because no one could find it in the agency at the office. We were so tired that I think we ended up saying we just disregarded the wine. We're like, "You know what? Maybe this is a sign to go home and go to sleep." And it was, but we had misplaced it because we were like a bunch of toddlers running around that needed a nap. So I always thought that was a funny, like, sign within the launch. Okay, we wanted to celebrate, let's go home. So,
Let's just go home and go to
yeah.
sleep. And how long did you sleep after the 36
I'd
hours? I
say
have to
a
ask.
day. I'd slept about a day.
A
Maybe a
day.
day.
Wow.
But then
You're right out of college, so you probably bounce back the next day, no problem.
yeah, and then we had to get it ready for the banner ad campaigns that were launching on the website, so that was the next week, but we did it. It was great.
Oh, banner ads. I remember those days. So fun. Thank you, Angela. This has been a great discussion of learning of the front lines and everything that you've been through. We'll sign off here.
Thank you so much, Colleen. This was great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Without Chaos. If today's episode resonated, subscribe and share it with someone else who's building without chaos.